people's target demographic was changing and consumer buying behaviors were changing. And so our market research service just went through the roof during COVID because we could actually show this on a screen. We could scrape the internet. We could use all of these really awesome tools. And that's what's transpired into the Marketing Maven method is market research, the insights that we gain, the strategy that we can present, and then the implementation.
Business is business, take it back to the basics. Multi-million cash, the feeling's amazing. Got a Porsche inside my stable, don't horse with me, baby. 20 plus in my field, I'm like Kobe with the Lakers. It's like I'm touring the Sprinter, doing these road trips 3 days. Close for more M's, I stay on it. When you step on the premise, just know I own this. Collaborate inside of my district, it's for the owners. The conduit and the pun is the true 101. How I conduct business, you just might learn.
What's going on, audience? I'm back with another podcast episode with a marketing and public relations guru, the owner and CEO of Marketing Maven, Miss Lindsey Carnett. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Thanks
for coming by. I always say the most important thing that we have in this world is time, so I appreciate you sharing your time with me today. I feel like we, especially you probably know this as a business owner, we can lose and gain back all the materials and possessions or relationships, but time is one thing that we're always hard pressed for, but we can never get back once it's gone. So I appreciate your time today.
Thanks.
Tell me a little bit about yourself. Where you grew up, how that influenced you, and where did that entrepreneur spirit come from?
Sure. I grew up in Moorpark, California. So I am originally a Southern California girl, and I moved with my family up to the Pacific Northwest when I was 8. And in the Pacific Northwest, I lived on 5.5 acres. We had sheep. So I went from suburbia, Moorpark, up to the Pacific Northwest. And I started playing soccer and wound up playing in China even.
Wow.
In high school, and got to sign autographs for people because they would hand me pictures of like Cindy Crawford and whatever. And I'm like, all right, let me sign this. So really got to travel all over the place. I graduated high school early and I lived in Mexico. I lived in Cuernavaca. Wow. And so I came back, went to prom, walked, and then I accepted an offer to go to Cal Lutheran. And it's funny because my parents had been there. And so, when you're a high school kid, you're not like, I want to go where my parents went.
Yeah.
Said, it's not because of you. But I loved the soccer girls there. And I was going to play soccer in college. And so I came back to Southern California to Thousand Oaks, and that's where I met my husband. My husband was the hot baseball transfer. So we wound up getting married after college and have lived in Camarillo ever since.
Wow, that's amazing. So coming back, what is your family structure? Do you have any brothers and sisters, or are you only child, or what is your...
Yeah, I have one brother. He's 2.5 years younger than me.
Okay.
And then I have a brother-in-law now who's awesome. So okay. Yeah.
And your parents, you growing up watching them, were they entrepreneurs or they work? Do they work, as an employee?
Yes, my dad owned his own psychological practice.
Okay.
So ever since, everybody always asks me, what's it like to be the daughter of a psychologist? And I'm like, I don't know. I've never been a daughter of anybody else. So I don't know. But he grew the largest psychological practice in the county in Washington State. And he recently exited his company to a private equity firm, which is pretty cool to see. Like wow. That is the
transition.
Yeah, it was very cool to see the whole process. Mm-hmm. And so I did see him go through ups and downs throughout the years and, mm-hmm. Hiring staff and when we had too many clients and not enough staff and all of that. So it kind of feels natural to me mm-hmm. To be in a seat as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, yourself. And did you used to go to the office and help out at all? Were you the administrator?
I did. I filed. I hate filing. That is the thing that I love to delegate is filing. So I think a lot of things that I had to do growing up, like pulling weeds, I don't want to pull the weeds anymore. I was the janitor at my dad's office. So he had a big office and lots of bathrooms and lots of foot traffic. And I was the janitor. So I cleaned toilets, I filed papers, and, it was interesting to graduate high school early. I went and worked at his office. I made money, and then I spent my money to do an intensive language study program in Cuernavaca because I went and worked at his office.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So, yeah, I mean, for me, I have something similar story where I have family members that are entrepreneurs, and there's something about when you can touch it, it makes it more obtainable and real than, when for me growing up, until I learned that my uncles and family members had a business, I always thought business owners were like this unattainable thing. They're like, how do you own a business?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I was able to, be around it until I can think, well, maybe I can do this for myself,
I took a swift kick in the rear from my husband, so to speak, of like, you're miserable in a desk job, like in a cubicle, like, why don't you start your own business? And I'm like, I don't know if I can. And he's like, you got 3 months, go knock on some doors and make it work. And I did.
Well, that's great to have a supportive partner like that. I can definitely relate to that. How did playing NCAA soccer and being a captain like form your leadership? Because I grew up playing basketball.
Okay.
I feel like sports can instill so much into a person. I was also like point guard, so I was captain. Was fairly good in high school, but it gave me skills that I didn't even know I was learning.
Yeah,
that I still like relate back to today.
100%. And I can tell you, in high school, we were actually the Final Four in Washington State.
Okay,
and I played against Hope Solo. And we called her Han Solo because she's huge. I just remember I think I was a sophomore in high school when this happened. And she was like almost 6 feet tall, huge quads. And I'm like, oh, man. And she scored header goals on us. But it's times like that when it's pouring rain, the wind's hitting you in the face, you have this huge opponent, and you're in the Final Four. And so you got to dig deep and just do it. Yeah. And the same thing happened in NCAA soccer in college. So I just remember my freshman year coming in, and these girls, they weight train. They, we have a strength and conditioning coach in college for NCAA sports. And so these girls had a lot more muscle mass than I had as a freshman. Yeah. And I just remember like going to the gym, and there were these 2 girls from UC Santa Cruz that we played against. They were 2 forwards. I played defense. And I call them the Twin Towers because they're bigger than me. I'm only like not even 5'4". Yeah. But I'm in the back like line of defense. So I had to go against these 2 girls, and every time that I would work out, I'm like, I gotta knock down these
Twin Towers.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I'm gonna take them out next year. So it's just grit. And I think you have to have grit to run a business. And I started Marketing Maven in 2009 during the recession. Then we had the pandemic. And then God knows what else we're going to have. But I feel like I have the grit to weather the storm. And since we've been in business for 15 years, I feel like I've seen a lot of stuff. And there's always more stuff around the corner. I'm like, I didn't see that one coming. I didn't see that one coming. But I just think like if you're an athlete, you have to deal with the weather. You have to deal with people's emotions. You have to deal with,
opponents,
coach.
competitors.
Yeah, whatever the situation is, you just roll with it.
Yeah. And you also talked about meeting your husband in college. I currently have a daughter in college as well. I didn't attend college per se for the degree route, but I always ask my guests, what was their college experience? Not only like just the education part, but the relationships. Because I always feel like, I always tell my daughter, like, you're gaining valuable relationships. And, she was in a sorority for a little while. And those are things that, like, propel you in life. Because as you know, being an entrepreneur, it is about what you know, but it's also about the relationships you cultivated. And it sounds like you cultivated a great one with your husband. But are there any other relationships with, professors or students that you still have today and that helped you, in your business journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the big relationships has been with a lot of my friends from my Spanish major too. Okay. I have a lot of Mexican-American friends, and so I am like la güera que habla español, like the blondie that speaks Spanish, and I get to go to the quinceañeras, I go to the baptisms, go do all the things with the family and have the real pozole and have those types of real, true relationships, and that's been all of those friends stayed local. A lot of my soccer friends dispersed throughout the country. One of my friends is a major luxury real estate agent in Boca Raton, Florida. So I go see her in Boca sometimes. Wow. And There's another one that was just at Cannes Film Festival, and she wound up working for CBS morning show as a producer, and I do PR. So I would ask her, hey, what do you think about this? And she hooked me up one time with a e-news article for one of my clients that was a good fit for them. And she was just at Cannes, the film thing. And there's another one, like I've been able to help out one of my friends that started a business 5 years ago. And she's like, Lindsey, what do you think about this? And I'm like, be careful of this. And we just had coffee last week. And I'm like, hey, did you see the new HR laws coming out? You got to watch out for this, this, and this. Let me connect you with my HR attorney. So I think we continue to help each other out. And even one of my assistant coaches, she's Nadine Rajabi. She's the executive producer of Below Deck.
Oh, wow.
So she's out and about too. So we get to share certain moments together, like Cal Lutheran's women's soccer just became national champions this year.
Yep.
So we were all like messaging each other and we're like, this is amazing. Like I have tears in my eyes. This is like, a quintessential moment for all of us.
That's amazing. And yeah, because I'm, like I said, I'm also still friends with a lot of, my childhood friends that I grew up playing sports with. And we're all doing different walks of life, but it's good to be able to reach out not only to, in fellowship, but also maybe to ask for advice on something, because they can maybe relate to some of the similar things that you may be going through. What sparked your interest in marketing and public relations? Where did that come from?
I have thought about this quite a bit, and I'm like, maybe it was this time. No, I think it was this time. And I think it actually ties back to my trip to China that I took, that I mentioned, where I got to go represent Washington State, and we had jackets that's USA on them, but I had to fundraise in order to go to China.
Oh.
And so we did car washes and we did all this stuff, but I was able to contact newspaper editors, journalists to come to my school and talk and do a huge interview, huge articles about my trip to China.
Oh, wow.
And they even put like, here's the address and the name to cut the checks to and mail the stuff. And I got lots of donations. And I'm like, man, this is awesome.
Yeah.
To be in the media really could help you out. And so I think that connection was really interesting to me. And that didn't really come back until I was in college. And I actually thought I wanted to study biochemistry. And so I wanted to go work at Amgen, find the cure for cancer. And so I would do soccer, and then I would find myself in the labs, and then I'd find myself on my bed doing chemistry problems for 5 hours. And I'm like, this is not fun.
Yeah.
But it's come full circle because I wound up switching majors, going into communications, and then wound up getting a Wall Street Journal article above the fold on a Monday morning with an editor named Gwendolyn Bounds for a company called personalstrainer.com that told you how to write your personals ads.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I'm good at it. I'm having fun. This must be the career for me.
And before you started Marketing Maven, did you work for another PR marketing firm?
I did.
Okay.
Yes. So that was actually where I did that at, which
Okay.
was an internship. And the funny thing was my sophomore year, I walked down the hall to the next door neighbor's place, and she goes, I hate my job. And I go, what's your job? And she goes, writing press releases. We have to write about stuff that old people like retirement, 401ks. I don't even know what any of this stuff is. And I said, how much do you get paid to write a press release? She goes, $60. And I'm like, $60? Tell your boss I'll take your job. And she did. And so that's how I got my internship. And the rest is kind of history. I helped grow that business and learn the ins and outs and did PR stunts that got mentioned in New York Times. And I'm like, this is fun and this is awesome. And I get to use exactly what I'm learning in school and apply it. So I haven't turned back since.
You talked about that your husband gave you that push that you needed, and everyone's decision to, start their own business, leave their, financial security is different. What was that decision like for you, and what challenges did you face, leaving, the company and then being the company?
Well, the crazy thing was we had purchased a condo together, my husband and I, and then we found a bank-owned home and we purchased that, and we're like, perfect. We got into that one, just a single-family home, perfect. And now let's go sell our condo. And then the market tanked. And we had to hold on to both properties for a long time. And so I was paying for both properties. He's working full time. And then, it was rough. Like I definitely had to be successful. There's no other option.
There was an option, right?
No.
Yeah.
So I started my company in the guest bedroom of our new single family home because, we're in for it.
And you're wearing all the hats, right? You're answering the phones. You're the administrator.
Oh,
You're the marketing person. You're the accountant.
Yep.
You have to wear every hat.
Yeah.
And was that a scary time for you?
I think looking back, I didn't know what I didn't know.
That comes with being a young entrepreneur.
I was 26,
right?
and so I'm like, I could do anything, But now I have 2 little girls, and I have a lot more responsibility. I have a lot of mouths to feed. I have employees and everything, and so I don't think I don't know if I would be so courageous today. I think I'm courageous in other ways, but that was, hey, I got to go knock on some doors. But in between working at the PR agency and starting my own business, I was the marketing director for this publicly traded Scandinavian biosciences company. So I was able to take my biosciences background, apply it in marketing. And so I had a huge budget. There were like several millions of dollars that I was able to spend with different vendors. And so when I started Marketing Maven, I went back to those people that I spent a lot of money with when I was in that position. And I said, hey, I'm one of you now. Can I tell you what we do here at Marketing Maven? And so they said, sure. And I came in with the presentation. I'm like, this is what we do, blah, 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 blah. And they gave me a shot. So that's the power of having good relationships and not burning bridges.
Yeah, those are 2 things that I go by in business. Don't burn bridges. You never know when you got to cross back over them. And building strong relationships. My grandfather told me everything else follows a good relationship: the profit, the revenue.
Yep.
All that good stuff that that you need to be successful in business. You talked about being 26 when you started your business. I was 24 at the time.
Oh, wow.
And that's still young.
Yeah.
Did you have challenges being young, minority?
100%.
Because especially for me in construction, I'm 24 in an industry that's dominated by you gain respect by experience. And how did you go about making your reputation, in your market, being so young?
Yeah, I mean, there is such a thing as reverse age discrimination. We hear all the time about, age discrimination. You can't say this because they're above the age of 40 or whatever the case may be. Well, you and I both experienced it. And it was tough to go into a room of, white-haired men and say, what do you know? Yeah, I think you're younger than my daughter, But the thing is, if you can put money in their pocket, then they pay attention. And so I think to have that young approach to marketing, we are able to target people that they couldn't target themselves and do things that they couldn't do themselves. I was the Facebook generation. Facebook started when I was in college, and I was mad when they opened it up to everybody else. I'm like, wait a minute, this is just for college students.
That's right. You had to have like an EDU, right?
Oh, yeah.
To be on Facebook. I remember that, yeah.
So I came from the Facebook world. And so I think for just building up credibility, we practice what we preach. So fortunately, I was able to get some good press, get some awards, get some accolades. And so that really helped me because then we became an award-winning agency and look at my article in this. And so to develop thought leadership and do for myself what I do for others was really a good play.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. You also talked about being in the SBA 8A program and you're going to be graduating.
Yeah.
And also congratulations on 15 years because to run a business for 15 years is a long time, number one. You go through a lot.
Oh, yeah.
In business, personally, life changes. And to stay the course, and run your business, I got to commend you. This year is 16 years for my construction business.
Congratulations.
But, what other challenges have you faced? No, that's not what I mean. We'll cut that out. You mentioned being in the 8A program, and and I do government contracting too, and a lot of people think the stigma is just behind, infrastructure, and they don't know, the government hires marketing and PR firms, and there's programs, not only for women-owned, for minority-owned, for veteran-owned businesses, which can help your chances and, broaden your revenue stream.
Yeah, it was funny because I did the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program.
Okay.
I think it was in 2013. And so when I went there were businesses and people of all ages and different types of businesses in my group, in my cohort. And there was one woman that did translation services, and she's like, Lindsey, do you have any certifications? And I said, I don't need certifications. I'm not a doctor. I'm in marketing. We don't need any types of certifications. She goes, no, you're not understanding. Like a woman-owned small business, any of those things. And I'm like, I'm not looking for handouts. I don't need those types of certifications. I could do it just like a man. I'll compete.
Yeah.
Don't tell me I need a certification to be a woman.
Yeah.
So she's like, Lindsey, you could triple the size of your business if you got these certifications, because the government and these other businesses have to give work to people with these certifications. And I'm like, what?
That got your attention, right?
Yeah. I'm like, oh, excuse me. So that's how I learned about them, was from a woman saying, hello, 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 in person. And there was a gentleman, I went to this event. It was a SBA event, and he got the, some sort of whatever, Entrepreneur of the Year. His name is Paul Mazbanyan. And I've referred so many people to him because he helped me do the hardest thing, which is to get certified with all these different certifications. So we have certifications up the wazoo for California Public Utilities Commission and the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise and the Woman-Owned Small Business and the WeBe and the everything
you can do, right? But but all those certifications not only strengthen your reputation and give people like confidence in you, but it also opens up opportunities. So if these agencies want to contract with you, those certifications give them the contracting vehicle to do so
100%
without competition sometimes.
Yeah,
too,
we
right?
got an 8-day set aside, and that was one of the best days of my life because they said, hey, we've chosen you to do our PR for the National Women's Business Council.
Wow.
Here's what we want. Get this back to us. And then I got the whole thing signed in a week.
And you tell us how much it's going to cost, right?
Oh,
like
gosh. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, that just doesn't happen in normal business where they're like, here you are in a silver platter. Here you go. So that was great to be on their radar, and it was great to do work for them. And it's something that their mission is something that I really resonate with, helping other women in business.
Correct.
So that was fantastic, and that was one of the best outcomes of having this 8A certification.
And besides the federal government, who are some of your other clients? I see that you've worked with Lake Sherwood and the PGA, and you have some really big mainstream clients. Or who some of the other clients that you currently work with, and how did you gain those relationships? Are there any good stories behind any of those?
Yeah, I mean, one is Nectar Sleep, if you know the Nectar mattresses.
Yes.
That came through an introduction through somebody that I've known for 10 plus years. And, I think we had lunch together, and she's called me up one day and she's like, hey, you're local, right? She lives in Moore Park. I live in Camarillo. Like, we want to work with somebody local, and maybe you could help us. And so that is just like a big national brand that just happens to be in our own backyard. Other ones have come through speaking engagements. Like a current client of ours is called Advanced Structural Technologies. They're in Oxnard, but I hosted something called the Branding and Marketing Summit, where the first part's about branding, the second part's about marketing. We had it at the in Santa Monica at the Annenberg Beach House. It was awesome. But I got out of that a speaking opportunity at Express Pros Employment. And so I got to talk about the Marketing Maven method. I actually launched a book called the Marketing Maven Method.
Okay.
And I got to talk about that. She was one of the people in the audience and said, I love it. You have to work with us. And so we're working with them, and they just got a government contract for $10 million for developing military wheels. And so we're going to be announcing that. That's a huge deal.
That's amazing. And you've built now a bi-coastal company.
Yeah.
And in 2024, how is it managing employees, and what's the environment like, when someone comes into your firm as, a team member? Mm-hmm. Because for myself, delegation was hard.
Yeah.
I had to like
Me too.
really learn to let go of stuff because, you know, we want things done our way. We already know how things need to be done when we ask for help for something. So what is it like managing employees? Because I find it very hard managing the new generation, the younger generation than us, trying to bring them along and then being in the middle. And then I got people a lot older than me within my company as well that, you know, have to follow my lead.
Me too. I have boomers, I have millennials, I have Gen X, I have Gen Z. I mean, I have everything except for Gen Alpha. Gen Alpha is my kids.
Yeah.
So I have the whole spectrum. And yeah, I think especially being bi-coastal, I think that it's been awesome for us because people think about media and they think New York City media, but the truth is everything's virtual these days, but perception becomes a reality. And so I'm like, all right, here's our New York office. And we have clients from Japan who are coming out to meet us there next week.
Wow.
So, and we have another client from Northern California that's going to be at the Marriott Marquis to go win an award, and they'll be out there with us too. So we still use it as a big hub, and it's great to have a bi-coastal business, but it's also great to have a multi-generational workforce because everybody has something to bring to the table. And I think that the businesses that we represent, a lot of them have different types of demographics. And so you get a perspective from each person. It's multicultural, it's age-wise, it's religion-wise, it's political view-wise. And I'm all about getting people with differing opinions and backgrounds in the same room because that's where the magic happens. Yeah. And you can learn a lot.
And how many employees do you have?
I have 10 employees.
10 employees. Yeah. It's tough, like I said, managing. I have probably anywhere from 24 to 30, depending. And, you know, not only you have to trust those people, and I always tell my team members is like, sometimes you're the only representation that a client may see.
Yes.
And we want you to represent us in the best way possible and also represent yourself. You're also a representation of yourself. So it's been really interesting over the last couple of years as I've went through some transition, you know, trying to find the right people, trying to train the right people. And it's not always about what you know, and it's always like, are you a good fit for our team, right?
Oh, yeah.
I can bring in the best construction manager in the world, but if he's not a good fit with our team, it doesn't make our team any better. And that's, you know, as owners, we always got to try to see the bigger picture and make things better. Bring
it back to athletics, though. You've had a cocky superstar on your team before that nobody likes.
You got to get rid of them.
Got to get rid of them.
So my philosophy is when the headache, and this is, you know, our coach told me is when the headache outweighs the talent has to go.
Yeah, 100%. I'm a big believer in that. Yeah. It's like that they can become a toxic person, and then it's just a spiral effect.
It spreads.
And then if you don't do it fast enough, everybody's like, "What took you so long?" You're like,
you start looking at you.
You notice something? Yeah. Guess what? The fish rots from the head.
Yeah, that's true. And with all this, you mentioned, you know, being bi-coastal and, you know, technology, you know, playing a part in your operation. Are the new technologies coming out, you know, helping your business? You know, AI is big right now, you know, Zoom, virtual reality. What kind of technologies are you using to A, service your clients and, you know, B, you know, manage your team?
Yeah, I mean, let's start with Zoom. During the pandemic, I would tell you I have a love-hate relationship with Zoom because when Zoom, I mean, Zoom's been around, but when Zoom happened all over the place in 2020, I was 8 months pregnant with my smallest daughter. And so, you know, I'm like a new mom. I have to be on camera, and I'm like, oh, gosh, this is rough, you know? But the beautiful thing about Zoom is that it has been so helpful in helping show on the screen our market research and taking very difficult things for people to comprehend just visually. Like if I explain it, nobody's going to understand what I'm talking about unless you have the same picture in your head that I have in my head. Yeah. And you're not going to have the same picture in your head because you've never seen it. So Zoom allowed us to be able to show data, and the people's target demographic was changing and consumer buying behaviors were changing. And so our market research service just went through the roof during COVID because we could actually show this on a screen. We could scrape the internet. We could use all of these really awesome tools. And that's what's transpired into the Marketing Maven method is market research, the insights that we gain, the strategy that we can present, and then the implementation. And so on the implementation side, then going over to AI, a lot of people are like, oh, I could write my own blogs now. I have AI. But they don't know that they're going to get penalized by Google. Mm-hmm. And they don't know that it sounds like a robot. And they don't know. So it's funny because I had a company just last week come to me and say, hey, we need help with copywriting. And I'm like, that's interesting to get a copywriting request at the age of AI.
Yeah.
And they said, well, we wrote the script ourselves here, and then we just use AI here, but it's still not what we want, and we need somebody who is an expert at doing this to come in and do it.
Yeah.
So you can only get so far.
Yeah.
So I kind of have a love-hate relationship with AI too.
Yeah. Do you feel that that's a threat to your business?
Yes and no. I think it would be like if you asked the music industry the same thing.
Yeah.
Do you think that the bots are going to take over live music? People still want to see a real performer, a real whatever. And is it going to cost more? Yeah. But, I think that there are efficiencies that we can have. But a lot of media, like Forbes, for example, on writing for Forbes, you have to check something that says that you are not going to use AI to draft your article. And if you do, you're going to get kicked out. Your stuff's going to not get published. So people have to be very honest about, are they using AI? Are they not using AI? Or do they use a little bit of AI for inspiration and then riff off of it? And I think you have to be sophisticated enough and know your trade and your skill well enough to be able to instruct the robot of what to do.
And that's what I'd say the biggest thing is it's a time saver for me more than anything, and being able to prompt it to get the output that you like or that you want. And I'm the same way. I use it for my construction business, even for my co-working business at times, but I don't rely on it. It's another tool.
Yeah.
And that's how it's a great tool.
Yeah.
But it's not. I'm still, the main tool, and I have all these, tools in my toolbox to help me do my work. How 2 kids, bi-coastal business, husband, how do you manage your time? I still struggle with it today.
Yeah.
It's very hard. I have 3 kids, 2 step-kids, 3 dogs, fiance.
Yeah. I have a dog too.
2 so how do you manage all that from a time management standpoint?
I put my kids first in the morning, and I have international clients too, by the way. So I have emails to Asia at night after everybody's asleep, early emails to Europe in the morning time. So I just go with the calendar. I mean, I live and die by my calendar, and it's basically like I'm booked every 30 minutes. And the morning time, I take the kids to school, get them ready for school. Basically from 10 to 2, that's like my Zoom time, my on camera, back to back to back to back to back. And then I can take my internal meetings later in the day and then catch up on what I need to do my work.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And what about what do you like to do in your personal time that takes your mind off of work, or do you ever take your mind off of work?
I like getting massages, and I definitely like working out too. I could work out with a trainer. I like to get massages, and I like going for walks. And I mean, it's always fun to do family stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think that self-care is important. Like put your mask on first and then on to others. I have to remind myself of that all the time.
Yeah. I mean, self-care, because if you're not feeling your best, you can't bring your best as a leader, right? And it wasn't until, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago that I even learned about self-care. I used to just run at 100 miles an hour until I would crash and then get up and, dust myself off and do it again. But it's definitely, as I've been, spending more time, with self-care, I've seen the difference in not only myself, but, the way that I can respond to things and the way that my team reacts to me.
Yeah, and your clients too, probably, that can tell the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. You have a lot of community involvement. Where does that come from, and what kind of community initiatives are you involved with right now?
Well, one that I just loved was I was a celebrity reader for First Five California, and for the Take Five, and I got to go out to a school in Oxnard where most of the children were bilingual, and I got to read in English and Spanish, and that was really fun for me. I didn't say what my mom did, but my mom was actually a ESL teacher, and so she speaks Spanish fluently. I speak Spanish fluently, so it was really fun for me to read to these kids in Spanish. And just the promotion of literacy is really important. I had another, one of my grandmas was a librarian too. Mm-hmm. So literacy is important, and also just giving back to my university. I went to Cal Lutheran, and I served on their Victory board, which is for athletics, of the Victory Club. And then currently I sit on the board of the Community Leaders Association, which is connecting the university with the business community. Mm-hmm. And I'm really connected with the business community because I also serve on the board of the West Ventura County Business Alliance, which is the chamber for Oxnard and for Camarillo.
Yes. So you're very busy all the time.
I'm a connector.
That's I need connectors, especially as I've been trying to grow this Collab district. That's what inspires name is like we want to collaborate with other people, other businesses, because I believe that we can stimulate our own economies, other mm-hmm. cultures, create generational wealth within themselves.
Yes.
I feel like, especially in the Black community, we're trying to get rich, mm-hmm. and to me, that's a number, and mm-hmm. that fluctuates depending on how good you're doing, mm-hmm. But when you're building generational wealth, you're not only leaving something for your kids, but you're building it's a mindset, it's a culture that other communities have built, and it serves for not only for your family, but it's like a platform that other people can generate wealth off of, right? Yep. And that's why I wanted to create the Collab District to be a hub for those entrepreneurs, creators, influencers, and wanted to create relationships with the local schools here and colleges, community college and universities, because like we've talked about, if you start meeting the local entrepreneurs in the communities while you're still here, getting intern opportunities, running into them, doing projects here and there. Once you get out of school, you're ahead of some of your peers because you've started these relationships with these local business owners.
100%. I'm a big advocate for internships, especially. Everybody was like, "What should I do? What should I study?" I'm like, get internships. Get 3 internships, and then go submit your resume, and you'll be successful because you'll have a leg up against everybody else.
Yeah. So what's your future outlook? What are some of the future goals for Marketing Maven within the next 5 to 10 years? Do you plan to continue to do this? It seems like you really still love what you do, so it's not really work, and I feel the same way about what I do. So I feel like I can do this for another 10, 15 years. And so what is your outlook on and goals for the future?
Well, I definitely am excited about the Marketing Maven method. I want to build that into a learning management system and have it essentially be curriculum and have people that are looking to grow their businesses be able to do it through the Marketing Maven method. I also really am on a mission to help other entrepreneurs be able to grow and scale their businesses. So that's why I came out with my book. That's why I have this platform now, and I'm going and doing speaking opportunities too. I'm helping with a lot of the Asian and Pacific Islander businesses through a program called PACE through the city of Los Angeles. Also, I'm going to be speaking at the Camarillo Library and just got the book in circulation there in the business department. So that I'm excited about. But I think there's going to be a crossover between on the PR side, reputation management and digital reputation tied to cyber security, all of these things, because across the board, there are so many companies that are getting breached and then they are having a PR crisis because of it. And so I see ourselves bridging a lot more with the security side of things and crisis side of things, and really just being full service and being able to scale and grow and help a lot of different companies. And yeah.
And do you want to, you're in LA, you're in New York, do you want to open offices in other big media markets, Miami?
Yeah, I always had Miami on my radar. Miami is definitely a hub, especially for South America,
Yep.
like from Colombia and from Puerto Rico and like everywhere. And I think Miami would be a hub. I could see Vegas being a hub.
I was going to say Vegas, Texas.
Texas would be a hub. I'm going to be in Dallas in September. So, yeah, I have been frequenting the Miami area, the Dallas area, and obviously DC too because of the government contracting.
Yeah.
And we can still win contracts after we've graduated from the 8A program through the women-owned small business or just even being a small business.
Small business. So yeah, I mean, I graduated in 2019, and you'd be surprised of how many 8A firms don't survive after the 8A.
Yes, I've heard that.
Because they just put all their eggs in that basket, and once those 8A opportunities dry up, they haven't built other relationships. You know, for us, we built relationships with other different DoD agencies, with other larger general contractors. You know, so I seen the writing on the wall. You know, being third generation, I've kind of had an opportunity to see, you know, what happened before me, what worked, what didn't work, and I think that's the best experience that I could have had. You know, working for my family members. But and what about personally? What's any personal goals in the future you have? You want any more children?
No kids in the future, but I mean, if I could get more fit again, I think just for me to say, okay, I'm going to run a 5K or I'm going to do this or, you know, I want to do traveling with my kids. Like maybe I love scuba diving, so I'd love to teach my kids how to scuba dive, that type of thing. So just more world adventures.
And what legacy do you want to leave in your industry for the younger generation coming behind you that says like, man, I seen Lindsey do it and I really aspire to be like her or better? Like, what do you want that legacy to be?
I think just having a dream and going for it and doing it ethically. I think a lot of people, you know.
Especially now, right? It's not about like fact-checking anything. It's clickbait, right?
Yeah. In today's world, I think there's a lot of just fluff.
Yeah.
So I think if you're the real deal, I want people to know she's the real deal. Here's how you become the real deal.
And you get results from your services. It's not, like you said, not a lot of fluff, not a lot of I'm shooting you bullshit. Like you're getting actual measurable results. Your clients are leaving grave reviews, or it's not even about the reviews. They're seeing their businesses grow and transform, you know, with the assistance of Marketing Maven.
100%.
That's amazing. Where can we find the book?
themarketingmavenmethod.com.
Okay. And anywhere else? Amazon? Is
it's at Barnes & Noble.
Barnes & Noble?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to get one and get you to sign it.
I brought one for you.
Great. That's perfect. Well, again, I appreciate you sharing your time today, your story, and coming through the Collab district and just being open and vulnerable and sharing your story.
Thank you.